Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. And let me turn on my lava lamp. Today am going to talk about different words in English that are confusing. And so I had this idea. Because I was asked to actually talk to a group of people from Peru about words in English that are confusing. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, there's lots of different words that are confusing, especially for people learning English. What words for me are confusing, right? So I have a little story that I'll tell first, and I would love it if you would put in the chat words that you find confusing, like put where you're coming from, hit the like button, of course, put where you're coming from, and put words that you think are confusing. And, I'll try to explain how that will be less confusing to you. So I want to tell a little story, and it's about this Coca-Cola bottle. Well, not this particular Coca-Cola bottle, but about Coca-Cola in general. So my best friend, she lives in Michigan, and her parents, actually, her father was in the military, and they were stationed here in Massachusetts, where I live. When they were stationed here, they were visiting a friend, and they were there to eat supper. They have supper at the friend's house. And the friend said, "Would you like some soda?" So they said, "Would you like some soda?" And so my friend's mother thought, now she thought soda. She said, "I don't really like soda water or seltzer water." So she said, "No, thank you. I don't want any soda." So the friend went over to the refrigerator and she got out two Coca-Colas, one for her and one for her husband. And then she came to the table and she gave one to the husband and one to herself. And my friend's mother thought to herself, well, that was kind of rude. Why didn't she offer me a Coca-Cola? Because so in Michigan, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Sprite, they don't call it soda. They call it pop. So if you're in a restaurant and the waitress or waiter asks you what you would like to drink, they'll say, "What kind of pop do you want?" And you'll say, "Oh, I'd like a Pepsi," or "I'd like a Coke," but you would never have the waitress say, "What kind of soda do you want?" So that was like the whole confusing thing for at least people here in the United States, that in different parts of the world, we call things differently. Like we will call pop is the way they say soda in Michigan, and we say soda here. Excuse me. So I was looking at what other words that would be confusing to people learning English. And there are so many words that are confusing, not only to people learning English, but people that know English. And English is a first language. And so there are many different things, like the word affect, effect. I'm always thinking, okay, which one do I use? And so I went over to Grammarly, which I love. Grammarly, I use it all the time when I'm typing my emails to make sure that when I send out emails, or if I send out anything, that it's grammatically correct, right? So Grammarly has a little thing about confusing words. And so they say affect and effect is one of the top things that is confused in English. So affect is usually a verb. And so the example they give is Chester's humming affected Posey's ability to concentrate. Effect is usually a noun. Chester was sorry for the effect of his humming, like humming. The humming that his humming had the effect of preventing Posey from concentrating, right? So what do they say? They say, if you find yourself stumped about which one of these used in a sentence, try to substitute the word alter or result. Okay, so here's what they say. All right, Chester's humming altered Posey's ability to concentrate. If that works, then you're going to want to use the word affect. And then the next one is Chester was sorry for the result of that his humming had. So there's one way that you can kind of try to think which one to use, affect or effect. And I'm constantly putting the wrong one. And so I'm going to really try to think about this, try to think of whether I can substitute alter or result for that. Is it the verb that I'm trying to talk about or the noun? Now, I always say I don't really teach grammar on Dreaming English. I really kind of teach by talking and by telling stories. But that is just a little bit of grammar. Okay. Affect is the verb and effect is the noun in English. And let's see. So I would like it if you are coming here new, if you would let me know where you're coming from, and if you would hit the like button, and as well, let me know what words in English that you find confusing. All right, so let's think about some other words that could be confusing. Now, when I was thinking about the different words to talk about to this group of people from Peru, and they were like saying, what kind of words would be confusing to different people in different parts of the United States? Well, I thought of the word wicked. So in Boston, well, wicked generally, people will think of wicked as meaning evil, right? Or the musical Wicked, which is about the Wicked Witch, right? So, but people here in Boston and New England, especially in Boston, wicked is actually meaning something that is really cool. So wicked is used to describe, here we would say, that is wicked good, that's wicked good cake. Or we have like companies that we have one company that's called Wicked Good Cupcakes, right? So Wicked Good Cupcakes basically is a company, a mother and daughter team that has started this company that they sell cupcakes all around the world right now. And they sell them, they're in mason jars, and they name them Wicked Good Cupcakes because wicked is meaning something that is excellent, that's really good, right? So it's not meaning something evil when we say wicked. And so that's just a little thing for Massachusetts. But if you are talking, if you're saying, oh, that's a wicked good pizza or a wicked good cake, and you're in Michigan or you're in California, they're probably not going to really think of that word as being excellent, right? So let's see, let's go back to Grammarly. I'm waiting for any of you to put into the chat words that you find confusing, and really be able to talk about that, because I would love this to be an interactive conversation. So if you do have some words that you find confusing, if you let me know, that would be awesome. I was asking one of my friends, actually, she's from Panama. And so for her, ¿cómo estás is like, how are you, right? And so that would be, in English, you would say, how are you? But in America, we say, what's up? How you doing? Or sup, right? Sup, just sup, because we kind of get lazy. And I think people in a lot of different parts of the world get a little lazy and they really contract their words and smush them together. So that was really confusing to her, of having these different ways to say, how are you? And then other things that were confusing is there, meaning it's their car. This is their car is over there. Or I'm going to go over there. They're spelled differently, but they have the same pronunciation. So that was very confusing to her. So words like that. I was talking to my father, and it's always the who and whom and when to use those. That can be very, very confusing in the English language. Other words that can be confusing. So going back to my whole thing about words that are confusing for people in America. Well, here where I live in Massachusetts, when we use dressing, that's what we put on salad. We use salad dressing. We put it on dressing. We put it on our salad. But in Michigan, where my father grew up, dressing is what you stuff into a turkey. It's usually made out of bread or maybe meat, and you stuff it into a turkey. So basically, stuffing, when my father says, oh, I want to have some dressing with the turkey, I'm thinking, you want to put salad dressing on the turkey? But no, he's actually meaning the stuffing that you would stuff into the turkey. Hello, Asmir. Thank you so much for joining. So right now I'm talking about different words that are confusing in English. And so I would love it if you would share different things that you find confusing, and I can try to help explain that. Also, hit the like button. So that's the topic, is different words that are confusing in the English language, whether it's because they have the same spelling, because they have the same pronunciation. What do you find confusing? Now, sometimes I think sometimes people find the word read and read. They're spelled exactly the same. But if I pick up this book and I'm going to read this book, right? That is like I'm reading this book. I'm going to pick up this book to read it. Or, oh, I've already read this book. It's spelled exactly the same, right? So there are two words. It's exactly the same, but one is present tense and one's past tense. So that can be a little confusing because usually well, I'm not sure most languages, at least in Spanish, because I study Spanish, the spelling is different and the pronunciation is different when it's past tense. So there's like, that can be a confusing word to people. And I think lead and led as well, because they are the same. So I would love to know if you could tell me different things that you find confusing in the English language. Excuse me. Just move that over there. That tea is a little strong today. So what is your question, Lila? I would love to know what your question is. As far as like, what do you find confusing? The difference between trail and trial. Okay. Trail, the first one, trail is something that you would walk along. It would be a trail in the forest. And trial usually is in a court, like there's a trial in the court. And just going to take another sip of this. So the trail would be that you're walking in the forest and you're walking along the trail, and trial is in the court. And Lila says the difference between, competent authority and superior that I'm not sure. Competent authority and superior officer. You know what? I really don't know that. I'm not going to be able to answer that one, Lila. That might be a Google question. That seems very particular. I wonder if that is having to do with like really like legal English or something, because I'm really not sure how to answer that one. Excuse me this morning. I don't know. I don't know if I like had something go down my throat the wrong way, because I'm having a little bit of trouble here, and it's hard to talk when you kind of feel like you're going to cough, right? All right. So let me look back at other words and if you have any other ones, Lila, I'm sorry. The only way I can answer that one is if I cut and pasted it into Google and see what Google has to say about those, because I really don't know the difference between those. The commanding officer has the authority, apparently. And then your other one was the superior officer. I'm not sure. And maybe the other one is senior. Okay, so it's all right. Take some fluid. Thank you so much. Okay, so other words that are confusing. All right, let me see. I have a bunch of different ones that I got from Grammarly, and I am not being sponsored by Grammarly, but I just really like Grammarly. I use it all the time. My son tells me maybe they're spying on me, but I do like to make sure that every email that I send out is correct and has correct grammar. So in any case, I use Grammarly, and they have a lovely article that is about different words. I didn't know this, but gray is spelled differently depending on whether, and apparently I've been spelling it the British way all along. I've been spelling it Grey, and that's the British English, and I'm supposed to spell it in America Gray. That's strange. The difference between all right, now you're getting me. The difference between, and I can't pronounce that this morning. Let me see. The difference between entep and antep. All right, I'm going to skip on that one, Asmir. Point and point at, point on, point on, point on, point on, and point at. Well, point at, which I think you meant to spell point both times, Point, would be like point at. I'm pointing at that butter over there. You should buy that butter. Point on. I'm not sure that I would use point on. That's point on. You know what? Your answer is point on. It's 100% correct. Okay, that's how I would use point on. These are all those prepositions, and how when you add these different like prepositions, which again, I'm not a grammar teacher, but how putting point on is changing that meaning completely to point at. Like I'm pointing at that car over there. That's the one that I really want. Or point on. I think your point on Again, I might say spot on, you're spot on, or you're point on, you're 100% correct. I think that's what I would use, like just adding that on or at, changing it is kind of changing point completely. And there's a whole bunch of them. I actually have this book, and it's actually 2001 Spanish and English idioms. And again, like if you look up words like on in here, it's going to have a whole bunch of different meanings and different ways that on is used. So let's see. If you want to give me any other ones, then I'm just going to, let's just open up a random page in here. Order. Okay, order. In order. Okay, so using in the word order. So many different ways, just different idioms, right? In order. They left the room in order. Like they left it all neat. So they left it in order. Okay. In short order. They finished it in short order. So they finished it really quickly. On order. They sell only on order. So basically they sell only things when, now that one's kind of strange. Let's see. It's a tall order. Okay. It's a tall order. If I say it's a tall order, it's going to be really hard for me to produce what you're asking, right? So to call to order. Now in the court, so who was asking about trial and trail. So to call to order, the judge called the courtroom to order. So just all these different ways that we can use order if we kind of use it in different phrases, if we use it with different prepositions and stuff, it changes the meaning of order. So this book, it's very old. I've had it since college. The difference between in spite of and despite of. In spite of, 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 and despite of. All right, so in spite of. I am going to, let me try to think of a sentence with in spite of. In spite of my daughter's horrible behavior, I am still going to bring her to the birthday party on Saturday. Despite of, that one is more difficult. Despite of, Delilah, you are really making me think this morning. You know, so I came up with this idea because I don't know if Lila, you got on, I was asked to speak to people in Peru, and I thought, geez, let me just have a live and talk about this. So despite of, what is the difference of that? So let's see. It's in spite, despite versus in spite of. So I think you have, you have in spite as one word, and Grammarly saying it's two words. So Grammarly, let's see, the difference between in spite of and despite of. In spite of, you use in spite of when you are mentioning something that surprisingly does not prevent something else from being true. So I think that's like what I said, I would bring my daughter to the birthday party despite, in spite of her bad behavior. Despite means the same as in spite of. Wow. Well, that's why I'm having such a hard time coming up with, because I was like, all right, I would probably say the same thing. It's despite my daughter's horrible behavior, I'm still going to bring her to the birthday party on Saturday. So apparently they have the same word, and that's why you're really stumping me, because apparently you can use either or. They mean the same thing. And so that is according to Collins Dictionary right here that I found in Google. So that's why you really stumped me there, because I'm just trying to think, all right, now how would I use despite as opposed to in spite? They're actually meaning the same thing. All right, so let's see. If you're coming here new, if you want to let me know words that you find, see if you stump me, that are confusing in English. Now, I'm just looking it's and its, whether you put the apostrophe or not. I'm always confusing when I'm going to use that. So it's with apostrophe is a contraction of it is. But when you don't put the apostrophe, it's meaning that, so if I'm saying my cat, now my cat generally Or if the cat owns something, if the cat has its bowl, I might say its bowl is there. I usually will call my cat like his bowl is there, like, but generally, I guess if I'm going to say that it has something, that owns something, I'm going to say its. I'm not going to put the apostrophe, because putting the apostrophe is making it the contraction of it is. So another thing, when I was in college, they always said contractions are not formal. So if you're like typing something formal, you shouldn't use them. I think we use them all the time now, but whenever I was writing any formal paper in college, you never use contractions. So you didn't use don't or didn't or any of those contractions when you were writing anything in college. It was always writing out do not, did not, and so on. You didn't use contractions. And I find that I still am that way when I'm writing emails. I can tend to be a bit formal because of, that was kind of like drilled into me in college, like to be very formal when I'm typing. So I can be very formal when I'm writing emails, even when I'm writing text. I have a really hard time with all of these little abbreviations like LOL for laugh out loud and all these things that people use. So if you're just joining right now, the topic is confusing words in English, and see if you can stump me. I'm always confusing lose and lose and loss. Okay. All right. So loose is the adjective. Loose. So this shirt is, well, the shirt is not loose on me, right? And loss is something basically when I have lost, like, okay, I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm sorry to hear that your sister has died. I'm sorry for your loss. Or did you lose something? So those words are continually confusing me, lose and loss. And let me know if you get confused by those ones. Even as a native speaker, I'm usually like, all right, which one am I supposed to use? Which again is why I love Grammarly, because if I use the wrong one, Grammarly is going to let me know. Vignesh, good morning. It's morning for me. Yes, I think it's evening for you. You're just getting, all right. So yeah, so I think it's evening for you. I believe that you're in India. For me, it's morning. And I thought I would talk about confusing words in English. And I'm getting stumped here. Lila has stumped me, and I had Amir stump me on some of these, but I'm trying to share some words that are confusing for me. And I'm trying to answer questions. If you have questions of words that you find confusing, you can ask me. You might stump me. I might use Google to look them up, because, I've already been stumped this morning. It might be that I didn't have enough coffee, or it might be that, Lila, you just have some good questions there. So basically, the idea is to kind of talk about, what do you find confusing? I was talking to my friend from Panama, and she said words like there. There's three theirs, right? There's there, meaning it's their car over there. Or go over there to that car. Or there, the contraction, again, a contraction, there with THEY, contraction RE, meaning they are coming to our party this weekend, or they're coming to our party this weekend. All three of those words are pronounced exactly the same thing, but they're meaning different things. All right. Did you start the progress? I started 20 minutes ago, and I'm going to go for no more than an hour in total. So I'll be going for 36 more minutes, or I might end earlier. I have an appointment directly at 9 a.m., so I need to get off the computer. So I started earlier today because I have the appointment, and it was really, I wasn't planning to go live this week, but I was actually asked to speak to a group of people from Peru about words that were confusing. So then it made me think, well, maybe I should go live and have this conversation of, what do you find confusing? And let me see if I can answer those questions. As I think I said many times, I'm not an official English teacher, and even native English speakers are always learning. Like I just learned in spite of and despite are the same thing. Now, I think I've always used them in the same way, but I've never really thought about that. So Lila asked me, what's the difference? And actually, I just learned this morning that they're the same. And that's why I was trying to think, how would I use it differently in a sentence? How would I use those two words differently in a sentence? And I couldn't really use them differently because they both mean the same thing. And another thing that's very interesting, I shared earlier, but I'll share again, is that gray, I've been using the British spelling of gray, apparently. And apparently in America, we're supposed to spell it Gray, and I've been spelling it the British way. So just a little tidbit there. But other things that you find, Vignesh, do you find any words that you find confusing in English? Let me know. I'd love to know that. If you have a question, I will try to answer it. If not, I have Google here that can help me because I have been stumped. But the idea, and I'll share a couple other little things that I have looked up when I was also wanting to talk, and the people in Peru wanted me to talk about words that are different throughout the United States. So another word that is different in the United States is carriage. So if you go to the grocery store and you get a carriage that you push, it has wheels, right? And you put your food in it. Well, we call it a carriage here in Massachusetts only. The rest of the country calls it a shopping cart. However, in the South, they call them buggies. Okay. So in the South, if they're going to the store, they're like, okay, I'm going to go get the buggy, you know, when they're going to go grab the buggy to get the groceries. Hello, Helena English. Thank you so much for joining. So today I'm talking about different words that can be confusing, whether they're words that have similar spellings, whether they're words that have different meanings. They could be words that have different meanings here in the US or in Britain. They could be words that have the different meaning everywhere. Like I've talked about there, and there, the three different kinds of there. There's different words that mean different things from here and in Britain. That can be confusing. There's different words that mean different things here in Massachusetts on the East Coast where I live, or in Michigan where my best friend lives. So, or different words that you find confusing. If you could share with me different things, you might stump me, because I've already been stumped by English with Lila this morning. So let me know. If I don't know, I'll let you know. I'll go to Google and see if Google can answer that question. But I've learned already this morning, I've learned some new things with all of you. And the idea was really that I just had this idea because I've been asked to speak to a group about words that are confusing in English or misunderstandings. Like, did you ever have a conversation with somebody and they didn't understand, like you said something and they thought you were meaning something else? Like I was telling a story earlier about basically Coca-Cola and how here in Massachusetts, we call it soda, but in Michigan, they call it pop. And that if you were to go and ask for a pop, if I went to the store and said, or a restaurant said, okay, what kind of pop do you have? They wouldn't understand what I was talking about. Okay, so Vignesh, you say that, can you talk about the English meaning differences in the sentences? Like, I'm not exactly sure what your question is. If you have a certain word that has a similar meaning, if you could let me know. So I'm not sure what your particular question, like English with Lila asked in spite of or despite. Someone else, who else? Asmir asked the difference between trail and trial. So that's what I'm looking for. If you have two words that are similar spelled, okay, a smuggler and a pirate. Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, they're kind of similar, but for me, I think a pirate, well, the main meaning of a pirate would be somebody like that is on a ship that is like basically like Captain Hook, right? A pirate. And there are still modern day pirates apparently that are kind of those vigilant people out there. But also pirate could mean that I'm pirating software. Like I'm pirating music, MP4s or whatnot, and I'm selling them. I'm downloading and illegally selling them. So that's one thing of pirate meaning. Another meaning, again, is the Captain Hook. I imagine English with Lila, you know the story of Captain Hook, where he was the pirate in the story of Peter Pan. That would be my traditional thought of pirate. And smuggler, I think that would be somebody that's smuggling things, like people are smuggling drugs across the border. Like maybe they're hiding them sometimes inside their bodies, sometimes in, maybe they're hiding them inside of their suitcases or whatnot, but they're smuggling things across the border. They're smuggling things into a place that it's not supposed to be, right? So I think that's the difference. Pirates, general, we know that pirates back in the day, and again, they're still modern day pirates apparently, but back in the day of the Captain Hook stories or the Spanish pirates with their what were their ships? They had a certain name for those kind of ships, but they would go and they would attack other ships and steal the gold and whatnot. So that's my general thought when you say the word pirate. But again, pirate can also mean, that person was, got fined or got arrested because he was pirating software or whatnot. Back in the day when there was, and who remembers Napster? I think it was called Napster. But basically you could download all this music from the internet and you could put it onto discs, right? Who remembers those discs, right? You could use this thing called Napster, I believe it was, and you could download all this music, but the government put an end to that because people were stealing this music and they were selling it, or they were just stealing it for their own personal use. And that was called pirating it, especially if you sold it. So people are continually like pirating software, pirating this, pirating music, pirating movies, or the old-fashioned kind of word meaning like the Captain Hook, if that answers your question, English with Lila. Actually, this coming weekend, I'm going to see a very famous play by Gilbert and Sullivan called Pirates of Penzance, which is an English show by Gilbert and Sullivan, wrote it in the 1800s, and it's about these pirates. But it's kind of like an English comedy, an English opera. Just a little side note there because you brought up the word pirate. A pirate is robbing on the sea or ocean. Yes, thank you. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I mean. Pirates are robbing, like they're basically they're robbing people, like, and other ships that have gold or whatnot. They're robbing on the sea or the ocean. That is the general meaning. And again, I think pirate has come to be known in this day and age as also pirating like software, pirating things off of the internet. It could be music, it could be software, it could be videos, movies, and so on. So that's another word of the word pirate, or pirating, really. Not the word pirate. Sorry, a little confusing there. The word pirating, adding the ing, is like basically you're pirating music. But the word pirate itself, again, Helena, English, yes, you're correct. A pirate is robbing, is basically a group of robbers that are on the ocean. They're based on a ship, and they have their own ship, and they're attacking other ships and so on. All right, Big Nash. All right, let's see the difference. I will use to speak English. Yeah, so basically words that have the same sound but mean different things. Maybe they're spelled the same. So I was talking earlier before you joined of read and read. So, okay, I'm going to read this book, right? Or I already read this book. Read is the past tense. They're spelled exactly the same, R-E-A-D, but one is present tense and one is past tense. So that can be confusing because, again, it has the exact same spelling, but different pronunciation. Other things will have the exact same pronunciation but different spelling. So that can be definitely confusing. So again, if you're just joining, please hit the like button and please let me know. We're talking about words or misunderstandings that you've had. I talked about the story about the soda pop, right? I talked about the story about the carriages in the grocery stores that, if I was at the store and I went to a store in Michigan and I'd say, oh, you know what, do you have any empty carriages? They might be like, what are you talking about? Because most of the world will think of a carriage as something that would be for a horse. A horse would pull a carriage. They wouldn't think of it as the shopping cart. What's the difference between noun and pronoun? Okay. Well, a noun basically, all right, this is a soda. This is a noun, okay? This is a clock, right? They're a noun, right? A pronoun is going to be, he, she. I'm not an English teacher again, but basically they're what we're using. Instead of saying Rochelle, we're going to say she is speaking, he is speaking. Those are the pronouns. Again, I'm not a grammar teacher, but I know that from my days in high school, and we had to learn all those things. And also learning Spanish, we always have to kind of learn about pronouns and nouns. So basically that would be like, I guess what it's probably short for proper noun, meaning you're going to call, if you're talking about your teacher, you're going to say, he assigned me my teacher, Mr. Thomas, he assigned me this homework. All right. So instead of saying Mr. Thomas again, I'm replacing his name with he. Now, this is a confusing thing in the United States, or I don't know if it's everywhere, like if this happens in India, but here in the United States, we have this whole thing that we say, what are your preferred pronouns? So I have like people that I work with that their preferred pronouns are they and them, which is kind of confusing because, hello, Alfonso, Gustavo, thank you for joining. So it's kind of confusing because I guess it's people that are like, I'm not, like this person doesn't identify. This is a whole nother topic and probably not anything that I'm going to get into anytime soon, but will be people that in the US that do not identify as either male or female, and they might go by they, them, which is kind of confusing because I always think of they, them as being like plural. So when somebody wants to be referred as they, them, I kind of like, that's confusing to me. So we have a thing here that we have, like, we'll go around and say, what's your preferred pronouns? So I will say, I'm Rochelle, and my preferred pronouns are she and her. And then Thomas will say, I'm Thomas, and my preferred pronouns are he, him. That is, I don't know if that happens everywhere. Like Gustavo, does that happen in Venezuela? Are people going around in like a I don't know, either school setting or a office setting, or on Zoom that you need to rename yourself? Rochelle, preferred pronouns, she, her. So that's like a new thing. And I don't know if that's happening around the rest of the world, but those are those pronouns, right? That you asked about, Vignesh. So it's a little bit confusing. And again, everyone, it's wonderful that they can kind of identify if they want to identify as whatever gender, that's fine. But it's a little confusing when people are identifying as they, them, because I'm kind of thinking, okay, are you more than one person? But just a side note, because the conversation is really not about, personal pronouns and such, but is about words that you find confusing. So, yes, Gustavo, I did this after our conversation. I'm not sure if everyone saw the conversation with Alfonso. Gustavo is really Alfonso, who I had a conversation with recently on my channel. And when I had the conversation, my hair was blonde. And then later that day, my daughter, Kat, which you might have seen in the video, she helped me do this. So the idea of my hair, not to get a little bit off topic, is that it's both pink and orange. Orange to go with, I love wearing orange. I'm not sure if you noticed that I like to wear a lot of orange or pink. So it has orange and pink. It's supposed to be temporary. It says 40 washes. So we'll see how temporary it is. And that's why I said, well, let me just try something new. I do love my blonde hair. This is a little dark for me, but I do love it. I think it's come out really nicely. So thank you so much. Yeah, so definitely it's kind of like fire. So a little bit off topic. We're supposed to be talking about confusing words, but thank you so much for noticing. Some of my students, they said, oh, it makes you look so young. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? You thought I looked old? And they're like, no, miss, right? But any case, thank you. And I'm glad you still recognize me. Like you might have said, oh, who's that? Is it Rochelle? Yes, it's me. So today's topic is talking about, and I've been talking a lot with Alfonso about this because I have this whole project to talk to these people in Peru about confusing words in English, is to talk about, what do you find confusing? Have you had any misunderstandings when you were talking to somebody? When you were talking to somebody in English and you said something, but they didn't understand you because they thought you said something else? Or are there words that you just find confusing? Like I was looking at Grammarly, and there's all kinds of confusing words. In fact, I'm going to throw this into the chat. This is a really awesome, this is an awesome thing I found on Grammarly, which I love Grammarly. I'm not sponsored by them, but This has a bunch of common misunderstood or confused English words. And what I'm kind of using is my little cheat thing to look at while I'm talking to you about confusing words in English. I love Grammarly because whenever I'm typing, I really want to make sure that everything is correct and that basically Grammarly be like, oh, you know what? You need to put a comma here. Or, oh, do you mean you really want this word? Or so I like it for that reason. My son, he says they're probably spying on me, but I really just want to make sure that all of my emails are 100% correct with the grammar. All right, so let's see. How will I remember vocabulary? So Vignesh, again, I always say this, and I can't say this too many times. Listen, listen, listen to native speakers. Watch television, watch news, listen to podcasts, and really kind of build up your ear for the language. So Gustavo or Alfonso, I'm always confused. You have two first names, I think. A lot of words are very confusing when you're a learner. Terrific. You were talking about this. Yes, that's terrific. Like in Spanish, I think it's meaning something that's terrible or terrifying. But in English, it's like, it's terrific. It's awesome. It's, again, I was talking to Gustavo. I was talking about the word wicked here in Massachusetts. Wicked means excellent, but in the rest of the world, it generally means evil, like the wicked witch of the West. But here we have wicked good pizza, wicked good cupcakes, meaning they're awesome. They're wicked good. They're awesome. They're excellent cupcakes. In fact, there is companies named Wicked Good Cupcakes. I think there's a Wicked Good Pizza. There's all kinds of companies that use that word wicked in their, especially in Boston area. A lot of companies that use wicked because of it meaning excellent. And it is very much a Boston thing. I think when I looked it up on the internet, it said New England, but it's really a Boston thing. So other words that are confusing, I think I was talking about words like affect and effect. I'm always confusing which one to use. And I talked earlier about that. I was talking, Gustavo, I have a friend from Panama, Zolchi, I talked to you about, and she confuses, or when she first was learning English, she would confuse there, right? There's 3 different theirs. They're spelled differently and they mean different things. What about scrumptiously? Scrumptiously? I think that sounds like it's delicious, like it's scrumptiously. That I've not used very much. You know, my friend Zolchi, everything is delicious. That's so delicious is not meaning just that it tastes good, but that another use of that here in Massachusetts anyway, or at least in my office where I work, is delicious means it's awesome, it's excellent. It's like, that's delicious. Like, I'm not sure if it's a Massachusetts thing or just a Worcester thing, which is where I work. Thank you so much. Vignesh, check out that Grammarly site. I think if you want to get better on grammar, I'm not a grammar teacher. This is a struggle for me. English with Lila has already stumped me this morning. Telepathic. Okay, Asmir is asking about telepathic. I think that's meaning like kind of like I can kind of like see into the future or something. I don't really use that word, telepathic. Let's see what telepathic is meaning. And I have 15 more minutes about to talk to all of you because I have an appointment straight at 9 o'clock. But telepathic, okay, not really meaning that I can. It means that I can transmit my thoughts. Supposedly capable of transmitting thoughts to other people or knowing their thoughts. So yes, it actually does mean that you could actually, like, I could actually read your mind, but I could also transmit my thoughts to you if I'm telepathic. So that's the meaning of that. I don't usually use that word, but I think sometimes like, oh, you must be telepathic because you seem to know what I'm thinking. So I guess that's how I might use it as like a kind of like, oh, you know what, Alfonso, you must be telepathic because you just said that. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, wow. Let's see, what are phrase words? There's all kinds of phrasal verbs or phrasal different things. Like I have this whole book here. I had made some videos with this, 2001 Spanish and English idioms. And there are a whole bunch of different kind of phrases that mean something. Like an idiom is something that means something in one that you say this, but it doesn't actually mean what you say, right? So it could be, what would be an example of that? Well, one that I think is used in many languages, apparently, it's raining like cats and dogs, right? Literally, there are not cats and dogs coming down from the sky, but it means like it's raining super hard. And I made many videos about these. Like, I'll probably use them in my language, but when you ask me to just think of them off the top of my head, geez, it's really hard to do that. Is telepathic like hook the attention of someone? Like hooking the attention of someone. Well, I'm not sure that it is like hooking the attention of someone, because like, I think I'm hooking the attention of you because I'm really speaking in an interesting way and I'm hooking your attention. I think telepathic is meaning that I'm kind of transmitting my thoughts to you, or I'm reading your thoughts. Like, it's more like kind of communicating without speaking. I wouldn't really saying I'm hooking the attention. Like, I think when you're speaking, especially public speaking, you want to have this like, oh, I need to hook the audience. I need to hook them up. So my very first thing that I say to the audience, I really want to have that. It needs to hook them and grab their attention. I don't think I would use the word telepathic in that sense, but definitely the idea of hooking the attention, again, that's kind of like one of these idioms or one of these like kind of figures of speeches. I'm not actually like throwing a fishing hook at them, right? But I'm grabbing their attention. I'm hooking them with something very interesting. When I first start out, if I go out and make a speech, I need to have that very first part. I need to get their attention and make them think, I really want to listen to what this person is talking about. When I first started this morning, I might not have been hooking your attention because I was like, maybe I didn't have enough coffee. Maybe I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about. But now I'm hooking your attention. I'm saying something really interesting and you're like, I really want to listen. I really am interested in what she's talking about. I'm hooking your attention. So I kind of think that would be not so much telepathic, but the hooking the attention is really like grabbing somebody's attention, really like, getting them to say, wait a minute, I want to listen. I want to hear what she has to say. And we talk about that a lot. Like, I used to be in a group called Toastmasters, which is an international group around the whole world, where we would practice public speaking. And they always talked about having that hook, having that thing at the beginning of your speech that's hooking people in and making them decide to listen to pay attention. Because you have people that have their cell phones, or maybe they're just kind of thinking about their grocery list. What are they going to buy? Like, they might not necessarily, even though they're sitting in the room, they might not necessarily be listening to you. So you want to hook them in. You want to really grab their attention. So that would be what I would say is like hooking their attention, and not so much meaning telepathic. I think that's more like, oh, Lila, you must be telepathic. You seem to really know what I was going to say there. So that would be what I would say is telepathic. And I almost like see, like when you like search on Google, it's got these pictures that come up with two people and like kind of like electricity kind of going back and forth, kind of from their heads, kind of showing like, oh, thoughts are going back and forth. That's what you search if you do a Google search. But if you're just joining, we're talking about words that are confusing in English, or things that misunderstandings you might have had when speaking to somebody in English. What is the difference between board and border? Board and border. So border, I would say border is like the border between Mexico and the United States. And board, B-O-A-R-D. B-O-A-R-D. Now, that, right, because I'm like, again, not enough coffee this morning. I would say that's like I need a board, a 2x4, a board of wood, to fix that hole in my roof, right? A board. Or go up to the board in the classroom and write 2 plus 2, a board, right? There's a chalkboard or a whiteboard or a board like a 2x4 piece of wood, which is probably like that, right? That would be like the difference, the board being like the whiteboard, the blackboard that you would have in school, or a 2x4, like a board of wood. Asmir says, thank you. Add me to, I don't have a group right now. Sorry, Asmir, I don't really have a group, but definitely if I had one, I don't have the time to kind of like admin a group, except I do have a group with Lila that I kind of help Lila with, but all right. So Edu Power Channel, thank you for let me know where you're coming from. I'm interested. I want to be able to say that I've spoken to people in 35 countries. Somebody told me the other, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody put that they have conversations with people in 35 countries. So I would love to be able to say that right now. I think I have had conversations with people in 10 different countries. So I would love to know where you're coming from. Hit the like button. Right now, we're talking for the next 9 minutes about words that you find confusing in English. Words that maybe are spelled the same but have different meanings. Words that sound the same. What do you find confusing? That particular group about practicing public speaking, it's called Toastmasters International, and you can look it up and join it. It is a international group, and you can find a local chapter. Toastmasters International. I'm not sure if I'm spelling it right because, yeah. All right. Toastmasters International. Look it up. They're around the world. You probably can do it online now because, you know, we're still in this coronavirus thing. I did that for a while. It wasn't free, but it wasn't a lot of money. And I think you could go visit their organization and then decide whether or not you want to join. I used to do it in person. I imagine there probably a lot of them are meeting online now. Oh, Gustavo, pop. Remember we had the conversation about pop? I told everybody about pop or soda. So that could be confusing. What do you call this in Venezuela? Would you just call it like gaseosa or something? Or what do you call this? Like soda. We talked about soda. Actually, Gustavo told me that soda, the word soda, for calling this particular drink comes from sodium, because apparently they must use sodium to make carbonated drinks. That was a little bit of interesting trivia for you. So as far as the link, I think you just want to look up Toastmasters International. I don't have the link, but I think you could just Google that and you can find a local group. It is like I used to go to a group right here in town, but I'm sure they're online now because of the pandemic. You probably can do it on Zoom. But that was the group that I did for practicing speeches, and they give you little books. They're probably electronic PDFs now. Thank you so much, Edu Power. Thank you for being a subscriber, and you're from Bangladesh. I did have a conversation with somebody from Bangladesh. I haven't posted it yet. I'm going to post it soon. So thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate that. So the difference between desire and willing. Okay. All right. Willing means like, okay, I'm willing to go to the store tomorrow, or I'm willing to volunteer on your group and paint those houses on Saturday, right? Okay, desire means like I really want to do that. Like I think that's the difference. Like I'm willing, like, okay, I'm willing to do it, but maybe I don't really want to do it. Desire is like I really want to do that. And so they have a very similar, they both means like you want to do something, but more like one is like you're willing to do it, but you probably, maybe you would rather not, but you're willing to do it. And desire meaning like you really, really want something, or you desire, like I really, really want a diamond, right? I desire that diamond. I really want it. Willing is like, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to go and work that shift for you this weekend. Maybe I don't really want to, but I'm willing to do that for you. Oh, in Venezuela, we just call it refresco. I think in English, like there is like a version of that, like, but I'm trying to think of like there's different things we call it. Tonic water. I'm trying to think of, refreshment, maybe it's refreshment. Okay. And so let's see, the difference between ambition and aim. Well, ambition, like I have ambition to get a promotion at work. And aim is like I'm aiming to, well, one is aiming, like you're aiming a bullet or you're aiming an arrow. So in the sense of being similar to ambition, which is like part of that word, right? Like I'm aiming at, getting that job as the senior advisor in my office. So I'm kind of like pointing to that direction. I'm aiming, that is like my goal. They have a very similar, I could like look up the Google, but that's what I would kind of use them in a sentence. So I have 5 minutes left. Again, I have actually I have a problem with my roof. So I have somebody coming here to look at it. So I'll need to get off. Let's see. Vignesh says, yeah, there are many words that sound the same that have different meanings. How do you use the word divert? Divert. That is a good question. I never really used that word, but divert. Okay. Divert. I think it kind of means like you avoided something, like you diverted a disaster. Let's see. Divert. Divert. To cause or change the course or a turn from one direction to another. So basically, like I'm kind of thinking like, okay, I avoided that disaster. I avoided that accident by turning the wheel really fast. I don't usually use that word, but it's really just like trying to avoid, you avoided something. You diverted it, like an accident or whatever. You turned and you missed hitting that other car. Divert means to deflect. Oh, okay. Thank you, Esmir. You're really quick with that. Yeah, you stumped me again because I don't really use divert. So I'm like, okay, let's ask Google, because it also says divert water from the river. I really need to divert water that's leaking through my roof into my son's room, which is really true, and which is why the roof people are coming. I need to deflect that water away from the roof, right? Edu Power, ma'am, if you discuss about conditional sentences, so I'm really not a grammar teacher. I really came up with this discussion today because I was asked to talk about confusing words to a group of Peruvians, people from Peru. That's what I would call them, Peruvians, right? And so I thought I would talk about this. But I generally teach English by like telling stories and stuff. And usually we have a topic, like what did we talk about last time? I think we talked about the environment. And we kind of learn by talking and having a discussion, or maybe I'll make a video and tell a story. So I wouldn't really be that good at teaching you conditional sentences. But if you look at my YouTube channel, there are some links for, I believe it's English with this guy, and he would be great at probably teaching you conditional sentences. But I'm going to teach you more of a natural way, which is called comprehensible input method, where we're going to kind of have discussions. We're going to talk about things. I'm going to kind of use my hands a lot. And generally not going to teach grammar today. I'm doing a little bit of grammar because of the fact that, I think the only way to talk about confusing words is to kind of sometimes talk about when something's a noun and when it's a verb and so on. But it's not my usual thing to do that. And I'm not sure that I'm the best at it. I don't have, like, I did actually study all this in high school and college, but I don't have a degree in English. More of a history person and an economics person. All right. So, and you have, so Vignesh, you said you have a test and exam. I think in America, they're the same thing. Test and exam, maybe an exam, maybe we use that more in college, but I think they're meaning the same thing. It's usually a time thing. It's in school. Usually, except during the pandemic. So those would mean the same thing. So I can have a serious native person to talk to. So I talked about a couple weeks ago, Hello Talk, and there's Tandem and other things to find some language partners. So one last quote or one last question, and then I need to go because the roof people are coming and I don't want to have them wait. Does anyone have one last question for me today? Otherwise, hit the like button. If you know of other people that are trying to learn English, if you could share my channel with them, I super would appreciate that. I want to help people all around the world to learn English, so please let other people know. And please like the channel, watch the videos, and thank you so much.